From LPM,
Louisville Public Media.
Support for the Louisville Public Media podcast incubator comes from the Community Foundation of Louisville, helping donors in our community establish charitable funds to meet philanthropic goals, creating opportunities to give more through scholarship, charitable checking, and donor-advised funds, and helping donors create a charitable legacy through their estate plan. More at cflouisville.org.
Sprinkle Sparkle contains adult themes and may not be suitable for all ages.
Access to pleasure and indulgence is our right, and we're entitled to it. It's not a favor that somebody's granting us. It's not a reward. It's just like why we're here. My hope is that people will listen to this and relate, even in the ugly parts, because there's something sparkling about that too. This is Sprinkle Sparkle, and I am Nubia Bennett. Today we are in conversation with the...
Okay, even though we just discussed how this is a loaded question. My name is Felicia Corbett, and man, who am I?
Anybody who knows her understands why you can't do a pleasure podcast without talking to her. Like, again, there's certain people you just can't skip over. One of the reasons I chose her, chose to, have a conversation with her. I sought her out, actually. I mean, we worked together at the Trouble Bar in Shelby Park.
Let's see. I'm known as the head potions mistress at Trouble Bar,
AKA the beverage director of one of the best bars in the United States. We have documentation if you'd like to see it.
Generally a unicorn.
I'm watching her as she lives with an illness that makes her a unicorn, and she lives with it. She's not surviving it. She's not, it's not a thing that she's getting over or anything. It's a part of who she is.
Daughter of a bad bitch, for sure. The unicorn thing is kind of interesting. It's, I guess the way you have to look at it is I don't foresee it as a sad thing really, but it kind of is to a lot of people that are uncomfortable about talking about disease. Mm-hmm. So when I was 31, I was diagnosed with a super rare form of cancer. Mm-hmm. It happens to like 1 in 10 million people. And it's called, and I know this because I've said it so many times over the years, but it's called dermatofibrosarcoma protuberans, or DFSP. Mm-hmm. And it's a skin cancer. But they call it a subskin cancer. And what happens is that your cells are like, if you think of them in a little factory, they're like just building away.
I wanted to speak with her because of the way she engages with the conditions that she may not have control over, all the time, but she exists in this space where she's always pursuing joy.
Anyway, the whole point of that is how most cancers have, or most diseases have, a ribbon, mm-hmm. and it's like a particular color, like pink for Susan G. Komen and red for AIDS, just different things like that. This one is yellow and purple and has a literal unicorn in it.
I didn't know.
So they call us unicorns.
Having this conversation with her about pleasure at a time in her life when some days aren't so good, some days don't feel good, but that's a part of seeking joy. Just engaging with hard stuff, right? And the uncomfortable stuff she talks about. I mean, this conversation begins with her explaining the kind of cancer that she has, which makes her a unicorn, because the incidence of this type of cancer is like 1 in 10 million. I told her she should go, play the lottery is what I said. But just the ability to have a conversation about what makes so many people so uncomfortable, right? the point of this conversation is really the joy in being able to have a conversation around what makes us really all uncomfortable. Because, of course, we love her. Like, we love her ferociously at our bar. And I mean, anybody that knows Felicia loves her, even if you don't get the opportunity to like hang out with her at her beautiful house and hang out with her every day, or, or just, do the friend thing every day. You meet her and you love her, like, and you're like, why do I love this person so much? I don't even know them that long. Like, there's just something about her that you love. I mean, I could name a lot of things about her, but one of the things was the reason why I chose to have this conversation with her is that she makes it safe to have really uncomfortable conversations about things that our culture essentially just says, no, we only have sad conversations about them. Like being sick with an illness that you just have to live with. So just really thinking about what it means to seek joy and to seek pleasure and to seek happiness and be those things, not just seek them in the middle of an uncomfortable journey is why we had to have this conversation.
Well, and is there anything else that we need to know about who is Felicia, other than the fact that she's a unicorn in all the ways and does all the cool things and makes delicious, delicious drinks?
Ooh. Yes. I think things to know about me is that I know like a lot of people say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. A lot of people see my astrological sign and automatically assume that's the way I am. Mm-hmm. Or they see that my status as an only child and assume who I am. Mm-hmm. And military brat is the third one. So I'm like Cancer, military brat, only child. So people have this assumption of me already, which is so much fun to dispel, like in a positive way, because people walk in with this assumption of me, and then I meet them and talk to them, and they realize that I at least try to live my life to be kind to everyone. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are like, so what is your philosophy? What is your whatever? Like, are you spiritual? Are you religious? What is this? And it's kind of a smart ass answer, but it's kind of an honest answer when I say
answer.
Yeah. I'm like, I believe in Aesop's fables. Like, at the core, just be kind to each other. Like when the lion gets the thorn in his paw and his neighbors help him out, like, just be kind to people is the base of it. And so I've always lived with that philosophy. Just be kind, be warm. And lately I've learned to also discern who is not here for my kindness or who doesn't get to have my kindness, because I would just give it away willingly. And then I would be like, go into like deep swaths of despair and sadness. And I couldn't understand why. Mm-hmm. And I realized it was just that I was being kind to people that didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
So, and it's weird that something like Cancer gives you that perspective. I guess it's not weird, but it is weird, because like a near-death experience, you're kind of like, oh, I don't have to do this. Mm-hmm. And I don't have to put up with you.
No.
Yeah.
Really getting to the root of what does that mean to live in pleasure, which we're going to define it and everything like that. But like placing hard, fast boundaries around it and using kindness as that form of intelligence. Like, there's a poem that Nayira Wahid has. It says something like, I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't want to mess it up, but it's a poem about kindness as a form of intelligence, because it's almost like the litmus test for it. Like, do we continue this experience or no? Because my kindness is teaching me while it's teaching you. And right. It's like, oh, you don't receive this well. Okay, then we don't have to do this. It's fine. When I say that word to you, what does that mean? Because we're going to use your definition of it. What does pleasure mean to you?
Ooh, what does pleasure mean to me? I think I find pleasure when I get a satisfactory outcome of something that I've worked for. I don't feel like pleasure is something that should just be given to you all the time. I feel like you should work a bit for it. And so I don't think you can fully appreciate pleasure until you've earned it.
So it's something
it's something you earn. It's not like, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this better. Like, I think like pleasure is more of a tangible thing rather than a feeling. If that makes sense. Okay.
You moved to your house and it's bringing you pleasure, right? The work, where was the work?
The work was then, a lot of it was like this, like the feeling that I got from, like, a lot of it is decorated with love. Like, my friends came over and like Anne hung the wallpaper, and Guy hung this, and like my friends put a piece of themselves throughout my house any over. So to me, it's just like it's a place full of love. Maybe this is not how I define pleasure now that I think about it.
I was just thinking, because I was picking up what you were putting down, right? Like I was following you along, and I almost made me want to redefine work, right? Because the definition that we put with work is always, we think, oh, I have to do this, because we almost like work is almost the opposite of pleasure, right? And it's like you do work and then you get pleasure. Was that work pleasurable and it led to more pleasure as we were thinking about how to define it? Or was it work then pleasure? Or was it all just pleasure? Like, what is that to you? Of course, this is words and we can go down a rabbit hole there, but.
Yeah, I'm thinking like work in this definition of defining what pleasure is. Work is not like work to me is like the effort, I think, is, it's more of the effort that was put in by the people that care about me. I think that's what makes it. Like, for instance, when you eat a meal and you make it and you have one made with love, and you have like, okay, I don't know if you've been in the industry for a long time, but I started out as a server in the industry. And I remember like late at night, it was like, oh shit, the kitchen closes in 30 minutes. I want to put in some food real quick. And you see the angry chef make you something and you're like, well, okay. But then flip side, you have your friends over, Thanksgiving, family time, whatever, and you feel the love in a dish. I feel like
speaking my language right now. Yes.
That's how I feel about my house, is that my friends put in the effort, put in their love, put in whatever to help me decorate. And so I see them in everything, and I am overjoyed. Like, I love my house because I think it just has that good energy. And I think I derive pleasure. I know I derive pleasure from uplifting my friends and uplifting people. So
effort.
Yeah, it's effort.
But thinking about like the effort that's going in, whether you enjoy it or not, you're like, there is something there. So pleasure is like, this is gonna feel good. Either it feels good to know that this is going to feel good.
Yeah.
Okay. That, so that works. That works.
Yeah, that, and also like, if you were to look through my house, you could find a lot of flaws.
Yeah.
But it was more of the memory of like this wall that I'm looking at right now. Like, my friend Jared designed it with the pictures. And then like, if you look in my living room, there's like a case that covers part of a wall where the wallpaper didn't touch. Like, we ran out. But these are like fun stories that I have of like Anne and I getting drunk, like while she was trying to put up wallpaper, and we like had to unstick it and stick it and unstick it and stick it because it was not lined up. And like, I just like looking at, I love stories that stay in my heart. So and it's usually the imperfections that make that story.
Yes, always.
what if we went with the imperfect pursuit of love?
Woo! I love it. I'm gonna write it down right now. So it's the imperfect pursuit of love. And love in what terms? Like, I know words. I could just do this with words all day, but like love in what terms? Like
love in terms of great memories, love in terms of your relationship to others. Love is a feeling that inside of you creates, this is going to sound weird, but like an inside smile.
No, I get it. I love that definition. That made me smile actually on the inside.
On the inside.
Perfect. So I'm going to ask, has that always been, what is your relationship to that definition of pleasure been in the past? Like, I mean, has that always been your definition of it, or has that changed for you? Because I mean, we're auntie status age, okay? So yes, auntie status age is official. So because of that, that's long enough for words to mean different things. What is that relationship to that definition of pleasure been for you?
It's actually funny that you asked that. So from the day I was born, my mom thought that I was going to be a boy, and she did not have a name picked out for me at all. So her best friend was in the room with her, and her name was Felicia. And then she did or just named me after her best friend, because she was like, yeah, that's fine. But Felicia means happiness. It's a derivative of Latin. So I know this is like a weird thing to say, but I've always felt like I've had to have this underlying tone of happiness, or to be happy, or to try to be happy. And so when I would get sad or depressed, it was very confusing to me, because I was like, I don't understand what this is. So only lately have I like really come to grips with it. But I know now that you don't have to be happy all the time, and you don't have to like seek pleasure all the time. Like these are things you don't have to do all the time. But I feel most fulfilled in life when I can be honest about my feelings. Like I feel like a lot of people aren't. And it's very hard to be that vulnerable. But I feel it's easier to achieve that type of pleasure through imperfections when you are honest about it. When you are honest about you not feeling good, when you are honest about like, hey, today's just a bad day. And through that, I've noticed, and also the biggest thing that I did was to stop hanging out with what my friend Urith calls energy vampires.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of that together has kind of made me more pursuant of the pleasure that we just defined. Like it doesn't have to be perfect, but as long as it's honest. And yeah, that's how I feel.
Dropping those gems. Because it made me think about how if we're working using that imperfect pursuit of love, and love being that smile on the inside, and you're saying that it's a requirement for, you have to be honest about it, right? And then because every day is not a good day, it almost seems like, I know you said you don't have to be seeking pleasure all the time, but in some ways you are, right? Like it seems like you are, if you're like, oh, bad moment, this is not a good moment right now, or day, or whatever the case may be. But like, but you're seeking like, okay, so what does this feel like? Like, and almost being very observant of this feeling, like almost like being observant what's happening inside your skin at every moment. Like, oh, this don't feel good. I'm tired today. I got some bad news. This doesn't feel good. So I'm gonna sit with this and I'm gonna be honest about it. But like, and let people know. Because I've asked you before, when I come to the bar, it's like, how are we feeling today? And you're like, not a good day.
Yeah. And
then it's like, oh, okay. Which of course would change the way I would engage with you. Not like in the pit of like, oh, I'm so sorry. But like in a way that's like, okay, we can talk more about this, or we can not, or we can have, have some mocktails or cocktails or whatever the case may be, whatever we need, which I think maybe gets you further along on that path. So in some ways, it feels like you're still seeking pleasure even when you're not feeling it.
Yeah. And actually, that's a beautiful way to put it. And I think a lot of people don't live in this is going to sound wrong, but I feel like a lot of people don't live in the sad or like time to just be like, okay, I'm not okay. I can admit that. I'll either ask for help or I won't. But just like take the minute, live there. My friend Chad put it the best. He's so good. He was like, all right, there you're walking down the street and you turn the corner and you look in a window and you see there's a party happening. There's sad inflated balloons. The cake is all gross. Like everybody in there is just sad sacks. He's like, you can go to that party. You can look in on it, but you need to walk out. So I'm like, yes, you should definitely, like, your feelings are valid when you're not feeling okay, and you should say that and you should own it, and then you can move on. And I think that's why there's a lot of stunted people today, because they don't acknowledge anything or work on themselves at all. And it's so bizarre to me, because I guess I grew up with a family that was just like, well, my dad not so much, but mom like, we'll talk all day long about feelings.
Oh, because that was going to be my next question, is how has your family of origin like impacted that way? So you said you talk a lot about how you feel, like in running, like is it a running conversation, or is it something like it's always been that way?
Yeah, for the most part, I could always talk to mom about anything. And dad, like, we have our own language. Like, I didn't know. I'll give you a for instance. So this latest time that I got diagnosed, the beginning of the year, with cancer, like my dad was kind of standoffish, and I didn't know why, but he offered to come fix a whole bunch of things in my house. And I was just very confused, like, what is, like, why? And then, like, talking to mom, we broke it down. That's the way that he copes, is by building things and trying to help out with something that he knows how to do and keep his hands busy, is how he copes. Whereas mom wants to get into the emotional side of everything, and that's how she copes. So it was interesting to, like, be an adult watching my parents as adults with their coping mechanisms that I hadn't seen.
Yeah. It's like you see your parents in it's
weird.
Yeah. Having that space to really, like, talk about how you feel kind of goes into this honest feeling thing. Like you're like, I can't move forward unless I'm being honest about my feelings. But you're saying, like, being able to do that with your family is why you're able to be honest with your feelings with everyone else.
Yeah, because I don't see I talk to my shrink a lot.
Thank goodness for therapy. Amen. Congratulations.
But it's like, even with my friends, I've always been that way. I think because I just don't see the point of, not necessarily like, you tell your friend, oh, you look fat. No, you would never do that. But I mean, like, just like if they did something to hurt your feelings, instead of letting it build up and, like, getting more and more angry at them. And then when you see them again, you're just like, I hate you. Like, no, like, if you can't think of what you want to say immediately after, like, just take a minute, think about it, and then get back to them. But I'm like, I'll tell my friends if they do something that's like insulting or hurts my feelings or things like that, which I know a lot of people don't do. And it's like, it's weird. And I think I had that problem with, I didn't want to date for a long time because of that too, because it seems like there's a bunch of emotionally stunted people out there. And you're like, so you just go from relationship to relationship without, like, even thinking about the fact that you ended something with someone that you said you loved.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not one for like how long you need or what's the right amount of time is. But if you keep referring to them, I'm going to say that you're not over them.
Yeah.
But also you should know who you are going into a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people forget who they are, because if you like, say you're in a long-term relationship or even a short-term relationship, you become so-and-so and so-and-so.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your relationship by yourself to be with somebody else? Like, I took that cue from my mom because my parents have been divorced for a while. Like, her and my dad have always been friends.
Mm-hmm.
So they're still friends to this day.
Mm-hmm.
But mom in herself is like, I want to be Michelle, and then I want to find somebody that will let me be me, but we work together.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she like never want to lose sense of yourself, because it's so easy to do, to become somebody else's identity because they're a stronger force than you.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why it took me forever to find somebody to date.
Because
I'm like,
yeah,
I was like, I want somebody that lets me be me and doesn't like try to change who I am.
I'm Nubia Bennett, and this is Sprinkle Sparkle.
Support comes from the Eye Care Institute and Butchertown Clinical Trials, where they strive for diversity, equity, and inclusion within their staff, patients, and clinical trial participants. To learn more, visit butchertown.clinic.
This is Robert Siegel, inviting you to listen to great podversations from the Kentucky Author Forum. This fascinating interview podcast is distributed by Louisville Public Media and available on your favorite podcast apps. Thanks for listening.
You are listening to Sprinkle Sparkle. I am Nubia Bennett, and we are talking to Felicia Corbett.
I know you mentioned your mom a lot, right? And her ability to have these conversations about feelings, because this is why you're able to spot the things. I mean, maybe not the only reason, but one of the reasons that you're able to spot, like, I love this, this brings me pleasure, I want this is mine for pleasure. Like, you're able to point those things out because you understand your feelings.
Yeah.
And you said your mom. But who, other than your mom, who taught you to feel good, right? Like, is there anybody in your well, it can be your mom even, but like, who did you look at and say, yo, I love the way this person engages with the world. I want to do that. But somebody somewhere is like, that's it. I see the way she is living through this world, moving through this world, whether they know the unicorn story or not. They're just like, yo, that's it. That's the one. That's it. Who did you feel that way about growing up?
Ooh, that's such a deep question. Okay. I was a military brat, and we moved around so many times that it was a lot of make friends real fast. You don't know how long you're staying. Okay, we're moving. Make friends real fast. So it was like, it was built up in me that way. And then my dad was a police officer in this little bitty town that we lived in Missouri. And so he would study, criminal minds basically and whatnot. So I got into like how to read people and things like that. But I think it started when we moved here in 1997 because nobody knew me. We moved from Missouri to Louisville, Kentucky, which I thought my life ended, but little did I know. So
Louisville wasn't the Louisville that it is now.
Yeah.
No.
But I was also kind of not sheltered, not coddled, but I got into YPass. So that's a whole different mentality than going to a regular high school, especially when you move in your sophomore year of high school. So not only did I not know anybody, it was sophomore year of high school, and I got into a performing arts school.
That's true.
So I was like, you know what? I don't know exactly when it happened or why it happened, but I just decided I think it was because the first friend that I made, her name is Eva, and she's now a Reiki master, I think, which makes sense. But she was like, I was bullied in middle school, and then I came here. She was a freshman and I was a sophomore. She's like, and I got into YPAS, and she was like, I've decided that if people bully me here, I'm going to not really let it get to me as much as I did when I was in middle school. So she would take ownership of it before somebody could make fun of her about it, which I know is also a coping mechanism. But when you saw her do it, you're like, ah, well, she could do it. I could do it. So then I just gave zero fucks. Like, I would wear a candy necklace every day to school. I wore fairy wings. I just didn't care. And like whatever in high school. So whatever brought me joy, I would just wear it. And my mom would be like, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. That's fine. And then somehow in my 20s, I kind of lost it. Like, I lost all the confidence that I had which is weird. I had confidence as a teenager, but not as an adult. So then I started slowly gaining it back. But I think these brushes with cancer is what kind of made me get it all back again, to not care anymore, because it's just, you waste so much energy worrying about, am I thin enough? Is my hair pretty enough? Do I have enough makeup on? Do I look old? Do I look young? Do I look whatever? When it's easier said than done. It's easier said than done. But once you start living the way you want to live, it's just like, oh, the fuck, where have I been?
Yes, no, for real. But I think that's so cool that you did that in high school, because that's really hard. I mean, I went to the same school as you, wasn't in my past, and I didn't move in I did move in my sophomore year. I did.
Oh.
I came in my sophomore year. But this even still, it didn't matter. At teenage years, it's like, please give me a wall to fade into, please. And then like, not you. No, I mean, no, I think that's super cool. I mean, I think it's common for that to go away in your 20s, because what is adulting really? And I don't think any of us got that right in our 20s.
Nope.
I think we're just trying in our 30s. But
still trying.
I think that moment you talk about where you're just like, for me, I don't know that it happened until I was 35, and I'm 36. But like, I think that moment though, I feel like anybody can relate to. It's like, where have I been this whole time?
Yeah.
I'm gonna do what I want.
Why have I cried in the corner? Why have I like fat shamed myself? Why have I like shamed myself in any way about anything that I've done? Like, if you're not harming people, if you're not harming anybody, then why are you harming yourself? My shrink said this, and it was the greatest quote ever. She was like, do this. Whenever you feel like saying something negative about yourself or something shitty to yourself, say, would you say that to your best friend? And more often than not, you would not.
No.
So don't say it to yourself. But I know like society places all of these things on you, but in the same vein, like if you think of like the base of what everybody needs, food, clothing, shelter, and then I'm going to put love in there. So, because we are social creatures. But I'm like, at the end of the day, if I have a group of friends that, you know, we support each other and we love each other, and that's all I really need. Like a tribe that supports me and I support them. That's all I really need at the end of the day. You don't need everything else. You don't need to be super thin. You don't need to be whatever. Like, if you can find a tribe that loves you for you, that's all you need.
How has COVID in that way or other ways impacted the pursuit of pleasure, or the way you experience it, or whatever the case may be?
Well, for me, I've always like lived by myself. And at this point I was living in my apartment, and I remember when we had to like, you know, just bunker down and be by yourself. And I thought I'd go crazy, but luckily I had a friend who would walk in, because I lived right by Cherokee Park, and we would walk in the park every day, but we would talk to each other on our headphones so that we were 6 feet apart. walking her dog. Like we would do this every day just so that I could do something.
Mm-hmm.
So, because she was worried about me being alone.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
And then when all of the protests started, it was like, it was such an odd feeling, because it was like I wanted to be there and I wanted to be a part of it, because it was history happening, and just to be a part of it was huge. But also I was, immunocompromised, so I couldn't do it. And I like, it was like this guilt, terrible feeling in me. And then I decided that all of that feeling, all of that quote unquote passion I would try something else. So then I started painting, just to do something, even though it was, and of course, like I would paint, and if I bought anything, then I would donate the same amount to an organization to help bail people out of jail.
Yeah. Yeah. Because people were going to jail like.
Yeah. So I was like, I can buy something, and if I spend that same amount of money on helping somebody get out of jail, then all right. So I had to take a step back and realize there are other ways you can help. You don't have to be in the middle of it. You can support in other ways. So I looked into other ways to support, and that's what I did. And I felt better about it, even though I couldn't like be there. So the pandemic taught me that I like to be alone sometimes. And it also taught me that like, it was interesting to like see all of that in real life, and to listen to the stories of my friends. I think I was more there for an ear. So a lot of my friends would tell me about going downtown and what they went through and how it was. And it was interesting to become like a safe place for people to talk to, because I was trying to find other ways to help.
Yeah.
So donating money and listening to people's stories is how I did it.
So it's almost like you kind of had to redefine what it meant to even be in community. Since the community part is what brings you pleasure, and affirms really everything else that you do. But you knew that doing it the way you've always done it wasn't going to work, because nothing about what happened in the last year and a half is what usually happens. Nothing. Nothing at all. But you still were able to be in community, and like that's a hard lesson, though, I think, because everybody, I think, wanted to be on the front lines. If you cared about, everybody cared about what was happening, wanted to be on the front lines, but everybody couldn't be there. Because I know I couldn't afford to be in jail. I'm the only parent of my kids, so
exactly,
it's like I can't go. I can't get locked up. But no. But that's So speaking of, we think about like what that means, because you're bringing up not only the pandemic but also the uprisings, and of course that was because Black people still don't get what they need, clearly, from anywhere. Black women in particular, from the structures that exist that are supposed to support us and keep us alive, and that clearly is not what happened last year or ever, but last year specifically. How in other ways, though, does living in this world, existing in this world as a Black woman, but as all of the identities that you have, right? How has that impacted the way you experience pleasure or have access to it?
Ooh. It's gonna come out weird, but I think when I was younger, I had a bully in high school. And I didn't understand why. And I think it was because I guess I just didn't really care how people saw me. But apparently that meant that I talked white, or that I did whatever, which only like it would anger me, but at the same time I'm like, well, I can't change her mind. She sees what she sees. I don't think that I need to like defend myself because she's never going to see what I see. She ended up apologizing senior year and was like, you were just living your life. And she was like, it's very admirable that you do what you do. So I think for the longest time, I think I lived in this weird like tokenism situation, which was weird. Like, because it was never brought to my attention until it was brought to my attention, if that makes sense. Like, this guy I know is a bartender around the city, and he writes his own little blog, and he wrote that he was sick of being the only Black bartender in the city. And I was like,
like, wait a second.
What? I was like, I'm pretty sure I've been bartending longer than you. And like, what the fuck? Like, who makes that statement? And then it was funny because I didn't see it. My friend Jared sent it to me, and he was like, who the fuck does he think and I'm like, oh my gosh, it is like I'm invisible, but I'm visible when you need to use me, but I'm invisible when it's somebody else's agenda. Like, and I think I'm going to get to a point. I know I am. I'm just trying to get all of my thoughts together. I think that's a major reason why I decided to stay at Trouble. Is because my identity is my identity, and they're not trying to exploit it. They're not trying to use it for an agenda. They're just like, you're good at your job, do that, which seems so simple. But I've noticed, like, now looking back, I've noticed a lot of places where I have worked have exploited me because they were trying to push an agenda. Like, oh no, we're diverse. Look, this girl, and things like that. Her. Yeah, we got her.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think, I don't know. It's being a Black woman in this industry is weird because I still feel like it's kind of tokenism. Because there aren't very many. And I don't know why. Like, I've been at this for 15 years and I can probably name 8 and 3 of them work at our bar. Like, come on.
So like, I'm hearing you say, like, other people can see me. They can see what you look like. They know that you're a whole Black woman, right? A whole Black little girl when you were a little girl, right? But you get to choose. Yeah. Is that new though? Do you think that's something that's newer? Because I don't know that we've always had access to just being like, I get to choose. Or did we just take
I don't think we've always had access. Like, especially talking to Black women my age, a lot, like, especially ones that are educated, like, they all seem to have gone through the same growing pains of people calling them certain things because they wanted to define them and put them in a box. And it's like, I'm proud of who I am. I know where I came from. I know the women that have built me up to be to who I am. And I want to tell my narrative. You don't get to tell mine because you don't fucking know me.
Yeah, that's it.
So, but it takes you a minute to get there. It takes you a while because because in your 20s and your teens, you let people define you. And they're like, well, let's just put you in the front so that we have diversity. And you're like, I don't know what that means. Okay. But then when you start like gaining sense of self, you're like, no. We're going to stop this. Someone approached me about like doing an interview because they wanted the African-American view of it. And I'm just like, I am not the only Black person that works for this company, A of all. Yeah. B of all, like, why can't it just be a perspective in the bourbon industry? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I don't want to do it.
Because then if you choose to say this is a Black woman, in my perspective as a Black woman, it's yours.
It's
not,
my choice.
I am representing the Black women.
Yeah.
Me. Yeah.
Because there's no way I could I could never represent Black women. Never. No Black women can represent Black women because we're all so different. But we're all so beautiful, and we should be able to tell our own stories and not be generalized in a category and people think that we're all the same. Like that shit irks me to no end when people are like, you don't talk ghetto, you don't dress ghetto. And I'm like, because I'm not. I'm Felicia. This is me. She's weird and I embrace it. Like, I'll talk about myself in third person. It's whatever. Like, you like it or you don't. And I don't understand why white women are not in the same category. They get to be different, but we don't.
So like taking a turn a little bit. So like with all these words, like I feel like at the end of the day, it's about the words that we use, right? Because I don't know that they've changed. I just think that we've changed them because we decided we want to use different words.
Because we had to.
Different, that part. So as we think about pleasure, I know pleasure and self-care and all of those umbrella terms, they're like trendy now. Like that's what we hear about, right? So when we talk about self-care and pleasure, because that's usually where pleasure is used, right? Like it's like, right. You have to think about self-care. Are you taking care of yourself? How are you practicing self-care? Blah, blah, blah. I'm so sick of the way that it's been used. So I'm going to throw some terms at you, right? And I want to get more of an idea of how you see that, right? So we say self-care is one of them.
Okay.
But that with the caveat that it's an umbrella term. What about the term self-indulgence, self-preservation, or pleasure practices? Because those are all fit under the umbrella of self-care. Are those things different to you? And if so, how? And what does that mean to as you're thinking about how you look at pleasure?
One year, I think I was probably 32 or 33. I was not doing so hot, like mentally wise, kind of depressed. And it was definitely hanging out with a lot of energy vampires. But she said something to the effect of, sometimes you just have to be selfish. And I was like, but that's a negative term. And she's like, no. Selfish is basically self-preservation. Like you seek the things that you love about yourself and you tell yourself that every day so that you can find love in yourself. And that's how you are selfish. So I feel like that's self-preservation. Self-indulgence may be a step too far where you don't consider the feelings of those around you and only your feelings are valid, no matter what. I feel like that's self-indulgence. What was the other one?
What about pleasure? What role do pleasure practices play in any of those terms? They can be related, it can be unrelated, but like what's a pleasure practice?
A pleasure practice, I would say, is like I personally get pleasure in different ways than other people. Like finding the perfect gift for somebody is pleasurable to me. Like, yeah, like
I love it.
Doing things for other people is what really gives me pleasure. And I think that's why I'm always shocked at Hi Felicia Fridays or when people extend like it back to me, because I'm out here just trying to do nice things for people. And it's overwhelming and beautiful to see it given back to me. And very like, it took me a long time to accept help because I think I could do it on my own all the time. So turning that cheek and like being like, okay, thank you for doing this for me, and I will accept your help is a whole new ball of wax, but getting used to it. But I think pleasure practices and self preservation are continuing to tell yourself that you're not a terrible person, and to find whatever phrase or whatever it is you need to see to make you believe that. Like I have little stickers all over my house that say you are beautiful. And so I try to say it at least once a day, even when I feel like terrible and I look bad, but I know inside I am.
As I'm rounding this out in a very tangible way, what is, or kind of tangible, describe for me a pleasure that you're looking forward to, whether that's a real thing or an imagined thing. What are you looking forward to that's pleasurable?
So I have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
This is a real problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this about myself, so I need to work on it. But I will get an idea, and it'll be an incredible idea. But then I'll second guess myself, self-doubt, and then never follow through. So there are a few things that I've wanted to do. I wanted to create like a scavenger hunt situation with bars and restaurants in Nulu, and like make it like when people come in town, they can go on this journey. I wanted to write a cocktail book based on the stories of people of color in the distilleries, and like get their story, get their favorite cocktail, come up with a variation of it, and create that, and that be my book. Then I also wanted to write an imperfect cancer journey book for those that are like, am I supposed to feel this? Do you feel this way? What is this? Or even like a blog about it, something like that. Just because like, I feel like the more we make cancer a normal thing, the more women will get checked. The more people, like when we normalize this shit, we could be more preventative, because people don't talk about it. And then when you find a lump, you're just like, oh my God, what's this? Instead of being like, this feels weird, somebody needs to look at it. So I feel like sharing my story, although I get a lot of like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. For every one of those are a few, like, I went to my doctor because I felt something weird. Wow. And they're like, it was nothing, but I went because you told me your story. And I'm like, thank God. Like, thank God. So, yeah.
That's, I just imagine like, because I'm thinking about like COVID, where they finally were just like, yo, just, if you need to go get tested, just get it. I wish they did that to everything.
Yeah.
I wish every disease or every condition, they were just like, yo, just go. We want to ask no questions about nothing. Just go. Imagine the way we would revolutionize medicine if we could just have these conversations. Yes. Yeah. I think those are beautiful. So we're going to stick pins in those and make sure that they happen. And
exactly.
Real or imagined. They're real. Those are real.
Yes.
So I'm going to be like, how's that book coming? Every time. How's that book? And you're going to be like, Nubia, leave me alone. I don't want that. I'm like, yes, you do. That's what you told me. But what's a thing, and I feel like I might know some of the answer to this one. What's an object or a thing that reminds you to center pleasure in your life on a daily basis, if or a moment to moment, whatever the case may be?
Ooh, a thing? I don't know. My things change. So like, I'll find something silly, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna run this into the ground. I don't know. Lately, it's been this keychain that just makes big Frida noises. It's my favorite thing ever.
You have a big Frida. You have a big Frida keychain.
I saw it in New Orleans and was like, oh, what is this?
Oh my God.
Must have.
So that you press it and it.
Oh yeah, she says different phrases. It's so great.
That is
for a while. It was my puppers, but she is no longer with us. But But it is kind of like, this is how you know I'm weird. I have a whole shrine dedicated to my dog.
Well,
as
then
you saw.
the shrine can bring you joy.
Yeah.
It can bring pleasure.
Release your wiggle. You already know.
Like, yeah. So
what?
much fun.
That is so cool. What?
It's fun.
That's super cool though, because like you literally have a button to press. You're like, yo, today is not going so well. Press.
Yep. And I'll immediately be like, there are certain things that can take me out of a bad mood, at least for a little while. And it's usually music, but one song in particular, because you can't be mad and listen to Sir Duke. Like, you can't. Like, Stevie Wonder is too happy. Like, you can't be mad.
And his voice never changed. I mean, well, except for once it did, it changed, puberty. Yes. After that. After puberty forward, this man is like 78. I don't know. He's old though.
He's old.
And he's old. And his voice is the same that it's been since he was like 25.
Which is insane.
No, yes. Control and everything. It's beautiful. I know Stevie's one of my favorites too.
Yeah.
So it is a Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
The week is getting ready to begin. But the day's not over. So my last question is, what are you going to do today that centers your pleasure?
Today, I'm going to have wine on a porch with some great friends.
Yay!
Mm-hmm.
That's a beautiful
That's what I'm going to do. And then later, I'm going to cuddle with my boyfriend.
No. Tell him I like his shirt.
He's so funny. He's like, nobody compliments my outfits. And I'm like, because you wear a racing shirt and shorts.
Well, that's fine.
Every day.
Tell him my pleasure practice is to compliment his shirt, whatever shirt it may be.
Oh, I will tell him. He did have on a cute shirt today. Had on a little button up. Looked adorable wearing his little maroon chucks.
In your imperfect pursuit of love.
Uh-huh.
Yay!
Very much imperfect.
Yes. But Felicia, I want to thank you, because this was as beautiful as I imagined it being, which is why I got so excited about, like, I feel like I was like interviewing a celebrity. I was like, I get to interview Felicia, and I would talk to everybody at the bar about it every week because it was coming up, and they were like, if she don't just get in front of this computer and interview this girl so I can stop hearing it. But now they got to hear about it because I know stuff. So I'm like, well, I learned this.
So, like I've said probably over and over and over again, that I say every time, that, like, you can take away from this what you want. And there were so many things that I took away, from this conversation. And sometimes even outside of this conversation, when I work with Felicia, or when I see her, when she comes to the bar, when I'm working, or, just when she comes in, sometimes I don't even really have to say anything. And I just feel the way I feel after having this conversation that you just listened to, or even just when I go back and listen. It's like this swell of emotion that's like, wow, this is great. Like, I get to sit here and listen to her just talk about stuff. I mean, she doesn't necessarily come into the room and start talking profoundly about anything. But at this time right now, one of her ailments is her inability to take deep breaths right now too. Just at this point in her wellness journey. I'm calling it a wellness journey is what I'm calling it. So when she leaves, when we finish shifts, I wish her deep breaths, because we know the pleasure that comes out of being able to take them. Because when you are able to take them and you don't know what it feels like to not, it is a pleasure to be able to take a really deep, deep breath. And I say to her, I hope she's able to sing songs today because she's also a musical theater person. She went to a school for that. And I like to sing too. So I like wish her deep breaths and like lots of songs and the ability to sing songs. Like, you better be able to sing some Beyonce today. That means this is a good day, So like, I took away a feeling of comfort of being able to, when I see her, knowing that when I see her and I say, how you doing today? And she's like, today sucked. And it's like, wow, this is a part of that process, right? Like, if you're seeking pleasure every day and you're in this moment of pleasure, maybe, hopefully, sometimes, there are going to be moments when there is pleasure in just saying today sucked, and that's okay. It's fine because it's a part of the process. Like, you can't seek something if you always have it. That's it from me today. Now I want to hear from you. How did you center your own pleasure today? Hit me up at sprinklesparkle.org.
Sprinkle Sparkle is created and hosted by Nubia Bennett and produced by me, Alex Biscardi. Our music is by Allison Cross, and Mindy Folner does our graphic design. Sprinkle Sparkle is part of the Louisville Public Media Podcast Incubator, with support from the Community Foundation of Louisville and the Eye Care Institute's Butchertown Clinical Trials. Our executive producer is Laura Ellis. For more episodes and to keep in touch, visit sprinklesparkle.org. From LPM, Louisville Public Media.
Support for the Louisville Public Media Podcast Incubator comes from the Community Foundation of Louisville, helping donors in our community establish charitable funds to meet philanthropic goals, creating opportunities to give more through scholarship, charitable checking, and donor-advised funds, and helping donors create a charitable legacy through their estate plan. More at cflouisville.org.
I'm Rachel Martin, host of NPR's Up First podcast. On Up First, we bring you the day's biggest stories, fast. And now WFPL's bringing you the same thing for Louisville. Listen to the WFPL Daily News Briefing for the news you need to start your day. Find it on your podcast app or at WFPL.org/dailynews.